So now I hand over to Sharmila, who will take you through the following slides that focus on usage of dictionary while preparing for competitive exams.
Thank you, Madhura. So before I start, there is a poll that I want to run because I'm going to focus on the use of dictionary and the importance of vocabulary in exam preparation or competitive exams that we have in India, as well as international English proficiency exams. So we are now running the poll. So once I get the answers, we can start. I think we are waiting for responses. So the question basically is, are you aware of the importance of vocabulary in competitive exams? I see about quite a few positive responses here. Just a few more seconds and then we can close the poll and we can start. So Yukti, you can close the poll. So it's good to see that teachers here are aware that the importance of vocabulary and verbal ability kind of benefits students, and there is a lot of stress on vocabulary and verbal ability for preparation for competitive exams or proficiency exams, which students need to take after they leave school, and sometimes even adults who are looking to enter the job market, because the job landscape sometimes requires them to take government exams, government competitive exams, which have a sizable verbal ability section where it's while it's easy to score marks there, a lot of Indian students struggle because the grasp of vocabulary can be quite weak. And I will refer back to Madhura's slide on the learning continuum when she's talking about language acquisition, especially the second language acquisition, where a learner can be on uh, either end of the spectrum when it comes to language learning. It can be somewhere in the middle, it can be somewhere at one end and the other. So the proficiency level varies. Now, here I would like to bring in the importance of dictionaries. Dictionaries are supposed to be useful aids to reading comprehension. There have been several studies that have been conducted as to the efficacy of dictionaries as useful tools for and aids for reading comprehension. And empirical evidence have successfully explained and explored the efficacy of vocabulary retention through the use of dictionaries. Now, there is a direct correlation between vocabulary pedagogy and andragogy and dictionary use and instruction. And this is not just an incidental correlation or a connection. This is an established connection. So a student who is actually using a dictionary in the classroom or as an aid to language learning will actually successfully grasp the language much better than somebody who is not using dictionary as a tool. Years of research have established the benefits of dictionaries in various language activities. One of them, which we will focus on in this part of the discussion, is the verbal ability part and how there is a direct correlation between this and exam scores in competitive exams. Yukti, if you could move to the next slide, please. So let's look at each category separately and look at the difference a dictionary can make for aspirants. Now, here you will notice that I have categorized the examinations into three categories. The first is the English proficiency exams, where students are only tested on English proficiency, how well you know the language. The second part is the government exams for jobs. Now, this is what I was talking about when I said the job landscape and the career aspirations people have, whether it is a government job, whether it is, a bank position. Recently, a few years ago, the government of India announced that there is going to be an umbrella under which all the government examinations going to be handled, which is called the NRSCET. However, we don't have a test yet. Once that happens, all of these exams, like the railway and the bank PO and other exams, government exams, will come under that. That also has a sizable portion. given to verbal ability, where students need to know the language and to show how much they know the language. They'll be tested on it. The third part, of course, which relates, you will relate as teachers, are the B.Ed entrance exams, as well as the CUET, which has been now made mandatory for students who are leaving school and trying to enter the central universities. Even here, students have to undergo training as well as are tested on verbal ability. Now, um, let's focus on why English language proficiency tests are important. English language proficiency tests examine the language skills of aspirants. The tests judge the language skills, the mental acuteness, quick correlation of ideas and words, and logical judgment that students may exhibit. Many of these exams lead to job roles. So, for example, if we take IELTS, for example, they are aspirants are tested on four different parameters: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Now, all of these focus basically on how much of the language you know and how are you going to use the language. This is very important when it comes to the use of the vocabulary, because many of these exams, like I said, lead to job roles. And in every domain of the work landscape, a vast vocabulary to express one's thoughts clearly, succinctly, and effectively is very important. This is then of immense significance that English proficiency in academic and competitive exams, can become better through the use of dictionaries. Now, how do we connect this to dictionaries? If you remember, Madhura was showing you how different features in the dictionary can actually help you understand how to use the dictionary, how to use certain words, how to identify word meanings, pronunciations, maybe one word equivalence, or cross references. For example, if one word means something here, is there a synonym that we can look at? Is there an antonym that we can look at? And we can identify some of those features in the next slide. Yukti, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So here you will notice that I have selected four different parts of the verbal ability exam, verbal ability sections that these exams have. And four of these are the most important areas where students or aspirants are tested in. Okay, the first and foremost is comprehension. Now, like I started by saying, there is a direct correlation between vocabulary grasp and reading comprehension. In a study conducted in 2001, the use of a monolingual dictionary was actually found extremely effective for the completion of a paraphrase task. So, when you as teachers also in the classroom are giving students comprehension tasks, the main point of that is that the student can understand what the words are, how the words form a syntactical sentence, and then use those correctly in the comprehension questions. Similarly, in the competitive exams that the government conducts, or the English proficiency exams, there are reading sections. Now, the first and foremost thing that you need to do when you are coming to the reading section is understand what the words mean. And when you think of word meanings, you automatically go to a dictionary. Now, the second part of this is the cloze test, what we call as cloze tests. This can be in many forms. The first part is the fill in the blanks, where contextual understanding of a particular phrase or a sentence may not be enough. Students may need to know and understand the exact meanings of the words that they are supposed to fill in the blanks that have been given. Then there are one word substitutions, which are also very important part of these exams. This is actually a reversal of the dictionary use. In a dictionary, when you're looking for a meaning, you look at the word and you look at the meaning. In the one word substitution, it is the opposite. The meaning of the word has been given. you have to find one word that can substitute that meaning. Here, the dictionary use becomes very important because many of these government exams, many of these proficiency exams, they actually publish word lists where they say these are the most important words that need to be, learned, that need to be grasped in terms of vocabulary building, and students need to be prepared with the meanings, the antonyms, the synonyms of these words when it comes to the exam part. So it actually works to the students' benefit to kind access that word list, access a dictionary, and then learn through the use of dictionary how to use that particular word list in sentences, in and how to increase the vocabulary that the student possesses. uh, Yukti, can you go to the next slide, please?
Do you want to run the poll?
Yes. So there is another poll that I am running now before while I move on to the next slide, which actually discusses the benefits of a dictionary and a vast vocabulary to exam aspirants and what is the evidence that supports this delivery of benefit. So let's wait for the question here is whether you prepare your students for verbal ability in a classroom. Do you have specific activities or tools that you use in the classroom so that a student benefits from that and builds on their vocabulary? Just wait for a few more seconds and then we'll close this poll. So if you could just register your answers, yeah. Yeah, you can close the poll. So it's good to see that most of you are using these tools in the classroom to, help students get the vocabulary that they need to move ahead in life. Now, while we are focusing on competitive exams here, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that preparation for exams is a continuous process. While you are training them in the classroom, that's the first step. While verbal ability is not the only thing that, while vocabulary is not the only thing that forms the part of verbal ability, it is one of the main things. And as teachers, you can start that process of preparation in the classroom. Every practice test, every listening, reading, speaking, and writing activity that you undertake, that the student goes on to take in your classroom, improves their language skills and adds to the confidence that the student needs to appear for these exams. I'm sure most of you will agree that, regular practice in classrooms, regular discussions, and like Madhura said, it's not just reading, it's, focused reading, it's focused application of effort when you are looking at increasing one's verbal ability or vocabulary, grasp over vocabulary. So all of these things I'm sure you are doing in your classroom, and the use of a dictionary as a tool increases the efficacy of this practice a lot more. Now this actually connects back to the continuum that Madhira was talking about. The preparation as a process starts much earlier in lower classes when their grasp is still at a nascent stage. If you introduce a lot of practice material, if you introduce a lot of different aids and tools to build vocabulary, that can help students prepare for the uh, greater roles or the tests that they are going to get once they leave school, once they are about to leave school, and for different job roles. Similarly, if you look at the extensive curriculum coverage that we are talking about here, like I said, the government or the different testing bodies, they publish the syllabus, they publish the word list, they publish the different kinds of verbal ability testing that is going to be done. Now, since it is in the public domain and with CUAT or IELTS in focus, if teachers were to take this up in the classroom and start preparing students for these examinations based on the lists that are available, based on the learning learning material that is available, what they need to prepare, it will help your students go much further and be prepared for the actual exam when they are going to appear for them. Now, let's move on to the next one. I don't think we have any more rules. Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. Yeah. So here we'll talk about the positioning and benefits of dictionaries before we end our session, and then we will go on to the Q&A. If you have questions, we'll request you to please start putting the question in the Q&A section. So, what do we know about how a dictionary can effectively facilitate vocabulary comprehension? Uh, we know the efficacy of a dictionary in the classroom. We know the efficacy of a dictionary and the importance of dictionary in a child's or a learner's life when they are trying to grasp a new language, especially English that we're talking about here. A dictionary can effectively facilitate vocabulary comprehension, indicating that dictionary use is a more effective strategy of vocabulary learning and building than contextual guessing. Now, what I mean by contextual guessing here is, say, for example, you have an activity in the classroom, and this is connecting to the closed tests that I was talking about, where you give the students a passage and then you tell them that, okay, these are the words and you need to fill in the blanks. Most of them, if you don't give them the dictionary tools and if they are somewhere in the middle of the learning continuum, will use contextual guessing, and they will probably get the answers right, but they will still not know what the word means exactly. While contextual guessing can be useful, it can also be a process prone to incomplete or erroneous influence, particularly for students who are at the lower end of the L2 proficiency or the continuum that Madhura was talking about. Dictionary use becomes the exposure to accurate lexical information, which learners need when they are trying to acquire the proper language proficiency that they aim for. And when it comes to competitive exams, this can be hugely beneficial because that will help students understand and grasp the vocabulary for their job roles, as well as score a lot more and sail through the examinations.